Now, as we speak today, the Parliament of Uganda has 499 MPs. I mean, it's really a very big number. And if Museveni succeeds in remaining in power, by 2026, we might have something like 600 MPs in the entire parliament. This is out of a population of just 45 million people. Now, what is interesting is that 3 candidates have come out to contest. The incumbent, Rebecca Kadaga, who has been there for 10 years as the Speaker of Parliament, her deputy, known as Jacob Oluanyah, who now wants to become the Speaker. Then the other one is known as Ssemujju Nganda, the only opposition candidate as we speak who wants to become the Speaker of Parliament. Now, for me, I have a problem with how this entire process is going, especially how the opposition is actually handling it. Now, especially NUP. Now, because it has become a thorn in the backside of the party on how people should proceed in one way or the other. We all know, because what it is doing, apparently, it is exposing the Museveni regime as well as exposing the opposition somehow, somewhere. We all know that there are some candidates in the NUP that had come out to give their support to Rebecca Kadaga, who is an NRM candidate. Now, there are also some, I haven't seen any, that have given support to Ssemujju Nganda, because some are still playing the waiting game. Now, this is what is interesting. The 3 candidates have this sort of manifesto. Let us look at the 3 candidates one by one. If you look at Jacob Oluanyah, he has been the deputy speaker, deputizing Kadaga. He comes from the NRM party. And Jacob Oluanyah thinks that this is their time for people from the north, bringing in a tribal element for people from the north to take up the speakership from the south, whatever you can call it. But this is what is interesting. Oluanyah is the gentleman who led a group of youths recently in the previous election to go and storm NUP offices where they beat women and people who were working at NUP offices in northern Uganda. He staged a group of goons to beat people up all over the place. Like, people were really injured, and he was never brought to the book. Now, that is the quality of speaker. If you vote for Oluanyah, that is the quality of speaker that we are bringing to the house. Literally, the gentleman hired goons. He gave them NUP t-shirts. Then afterwards, when these people went and they protested and rose up against NUP, saying that they had not been paid, blah 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 blah, they went to Olanyah's office, and then he switched the NUP shirts and gave them the NRM shirts, saying that these people have now crossed from NUP to NRM, and then he sent them back again to go and torment and beat people up. That is the quality of parliamentarian, that's the quality of speaker that we want to, that's the quality of person that we want to make speaker. So the parliamentarians that are voting for speakership, I think they should look at that in one way or the other. Because Oluanyah is a man who has no integrity. Seriously, he has no integrity. Like, I wouldn't vote Oluanyah. He's a really, really dirty guy. He's a dirty guy. And when you look at him, he's a person who has a low self-esteem. To be honest, the guy has a low self-esteem. I watched him on one of the TV programs trying to speak, but all the things he was speaking, number one, they were incoherent. Like, he couldn't even make a substantial point. He couldn't even, even the moderator could not even push him on such matters. And you could see that all his speech was uncoordinated. And that's the gentleman that wants to become speaker. Well, everyone has a choice. Now, let us go to Rebecca Kadaga. Been there for 10 years. There's a lot I could say about this one. But number one, she's the one that presided over the removal of the age limit. And she prides herself in that. She even campaigns out there telling people that the reason as to why we have Museveni today as the NRM presidential candidate, as a person who rigged the election from Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, it is because of me. It is because I tabled the age limit, I handled it, and we passed it. Rebecca Kadaga prides herself in that. Well, Rebecca Kadaga should know that when she did that, over 60 people. She should take responsibility of over the 60 over 60 people that were killed on November the 18th and 19th. Because the person she fought for through the parliament to come back and contest led to those deaths. So Rebecca Kadaga should also take a share of that. Kadaga should take a share on Museveni's rigging of the election, on tormenting and beating up People Power supporters and opposition supporters, on the stealing of COVID funds and all this kind of thing. She has a part in all that because she prides herself in having removed the age limit to bring back Mr. Museveni. Now, that is the quality of speaker that we want. Now, the other thing also, people know Kadaga, she's very generous within the parliament. Not generous for being impartial or for being non-partisan as speaker, but generous in a way that she gives out trips to opposition and gives out trips to NRM people. Like she's some sort of a milk card to some of these parliamentarians, right? In the opposition, they like her because she sends them to benchmarking trips. Whereas Magufuli was cancelling foreign trips for parliamentarians and government officials, Kadaga uses it as a weapon, that if you vote Kadaga, she will give you benchmarking trips. Well, all these benchmarking trips, we all know, they have not helped and they have not improved democracy and they have not helped the people of Uganda. But Kadaga prides herself in that particular aspect. Now, let us come to Ssemujju Nganda. Ssemujju Nganda is a very interesting person. He's from the opposition, very eloquent, very eloquent, intelligent, and is a person that Museveni would not want to become speaker, like it or not. He's any government's worst nightmare because the guy knows his stuff, isn't it? But the problem with Ssemujju, the reasons he puts forward as an opposition candidate is that he wants, opposition to have a candidate in the race just for the sake of having a candidate. That's what he wants. We all know that Ssemujju is a very, very radical anti-Musevenist in one way or the other. And people think that Ssemujju can actually get support some support from the NRM. If at all he can consolidate support in the opposition, he can get some in the NRM, and maybe from there he can become speaker, given the fact that the speakership ballot is a secret ballot. Now, the only problem with Ssemujju Nganda is this, that he is not strong in mobilizing and consolidating or bringing support from other political parties, be it in the opposition. Is a very, very bad person who can. Is a very bad person is a very bad person to mobilize support from other political parties. Because if you're in the FDC and you wanted support of NUP or FDP or these other political parties, Ssemujju is not the person you would send to win the votes. He cannot. He's not a person who would go there and talk to. Because the problem with him is very proud. He knows that he's very intelligent. He knows that when he sits on TV and speaks eloquently and says all these kind of things and says that, people should automatically just vote for him if he puts himself as a candidate. Well, he doesn't. As a politician, he should understand that even you, a politician, you must be able to work with other people in the opposition by reaching out to them, by calming yourself down and looking at them and looking at people. Not looking at people that you are better than them or they are better than you are better than them in one way or the other, because that's how he's conducting himself. He's not a person who can canvass votes or who can get the vote out of the opposition as well as the NRM. For him, he thinks that his CV, because that's the reason as to why there are campaigns. That's the reason as to why Bobby Wine would go and traverse the entire country and talk to people, blah, 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 to canvass votes in one way or the other. Now, Ssemujju doesn't have that talent. And that is why, you see, we have to question the reason as to why he is running in this speakership race. Because his first reason he says is that he wants to have a candidate in the opposition that is running for speakership, right? Now, so those are the three candidates that we are looking at. Ssemujju comes from a political party known as the FDC, which is Besigye's political party. Now, the problem is this, that Ssemujju says that he wrote letters to the heads of other political parties telling them to tell their members of parliament to support him as the speaker, because he's the only opposition candidate. Now, the problem is this. Ssemujju is a gentleman who has been bashing the NUP from day one. So he comes out whenever it suits him to ask for support. He's the very first gentleman that said that we are not taking part in Museveni's elections. He's now taken part in 2 in less than 3 months. He's took part in the presidential. He's took part in the the parliamentary election. Now he wants to take part in the speakership race. That's Ssemujju Nganda for you, which is really interesting to me, because if you say that Museveni cannot be taken out by the ballot, then why are we wasting time running as speaker? Number one. Number two, if at all you say that Museveni cannot be taking, because as speaker, what more can you do to take Museveni out? What is the role of the parliament in taking Museveni out of power? It's not going to happen, right? I think Ssemujju agrees with me on that point. So why would he run for speakership? Why would he run through a system of election that he says that cannot take Museveni out of power? And I think they're now coming to realize that through elections, there is a certain push that you can make to push the dictator out. But now, if you built your candidacy or if you built your political capital on the premise that whatever opposition, whatever NUP is doing is not right, what FDC is doing is right, then you have already maligned all people that would have supported you in this particular venture. That is the problem with Ssemujju Nganda. He's either doing it out of pride, or he, as a politician, is not calculative in one way or the other. Or they are doing it just to show the people of Uganda that the opposition is not serious, so it is not even supporting me as Ssemujju Nganda. See, this is a problem, because he's a gentleman who also bashed Bobi Wine for going to court. And he's the one who came out with the slogan that Twamugamba Bobi Wine, do not go to those courts, blah, 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 katiwajje yochi. That's what he was saying, that why did you go to court? What did you get out of the courts? He has been very critical about Bobi Wine, which is good, but his criticism has not been constructive. His criticism has been this sort of criticism that says, oh, I told you so. Now you face the music. Oh, I told you so. Now when it comes to speakership, he writes a letter to Bobi Wine. If Ssemujju was really serious about being the Speaker of Parliament, trust me, he should have gone to all these political parties and met these people in person. He should have met Bobi Wine in person, should have met DP in person, and they should have showed, or he should have spoken to them and told them that, look here, I'm coming for Speaker, do you have any candidate, and so on and so forth, so as not to make things difficult. And the reason as to why we are here today, it shows how hard it is for the entire opposition to come together, because if you cannot come together on this particular matter, depending on how the person has presented the matter, then it's going to be hard. You get it? It's going to be hard as the opposition to come together. This is another attempt where we are failing as FDC, as People Power, as NUP to bring us together, because this is one where we would have joined hands together, but we are still failing because of Ssemujju's approach that is self-centered and that is somehow not so good. Now, on the other hand, we have Rebecca Kadaga. Now, some people have come out to support Rebecca Kadaga, even from Ssemujju's political party, his own. But this is what is interesting, that Kadaga, people are supporting her because she rewards them with the trips and all this, those allegations. So she bribes them. People will know that if they vote for Kadaga, those bribes will come out. Now look at the quality of speakers that we are looking, who bribes more, who does this more, and so on and so forth, which is really interesting. But this is the thing. Kadaga will choose Museveni, NRM, over any opposition or any candidate. When push comes to shove, she will always choose Museveni. That's it. She's likely. Because look, if it's a life and death situation, do you think Kadaga would choose the opposition? It's going to be hard. That's why she turned down the position of the vice president. Now, this is what is interesting. Museveni has not yet said whom he's going to support for speaker. Now, if at all we support Kadaga for speaker, and Museveni comes out and supports the same person for speaker, don't you see that we are being played? We have rightly played in Museveni's hands. Just imagine. Because Museveni, I've read a few minutes ago, he said that these two candidates, Kadaga and Oluanyah, should refrain from campaigning. But he's waiting to see if Kadaga has the upper hand